They begin with a concerted effort to curtail the growing influence of the ISIL militant group. Countries fighting ISIL have been discussing ways to prevent the extremist group from gaining control in resource-rich Libya. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry called for more external military assistance from his country, as well as European and Arab partners, to help Libya's military create a safe environment for the government to stand up and operate. Libya still does not have a functional central government, with the latest attempt to forge a government of national unity appearing to be faltering. Officials from 23 countries are in Rome to review the fight against ISIL militants, which is exploiting the power vacuum in Libya.
In Libya, we're on the brink of getting a government of national unity, and that will prevent Daesh from turning Libya into a stranglehold on that country's future. And as everybody here knows, that country has resources. The last thing in the world you want is a false caliphate with access to billions of dollars of oil revenue. We need to push full speed ahead with training security personnel. And we need to ensure that there is a decisive military edge, not just clear territory, but to create a safe environment for a government to begin to stand up and operate.
Let's now put some perspective into ISIL's influence in Libya. The jihadist militant group has been particularly active in the late Libyan ruler Muammar Gaddafi's hometown of Sirte. Up to 3,000 fighters are now believed to have joined the terror group in the last 1 year alone. Officials say a majority of these fighters are non-Libyans. Here's CCTV's John Kerry with more.
Now, ISIL is said to be the world's most organized and richest terrorist network. And in Libya, it's using its resources to rapidly expand, enticing foot soldiers from poor African countries with money in exchange for their loyalty. An army of the poor is how Libyan intelligence officials describe it. Fighters are lured with up to $1,000 US, which is a substantial amount to people who barely survive on $1 a day. Now, Tunisia, Chad, Mali, Nigeria, Algeria, and neighboring Egypt are among the worst affected. The fighters are mostly smuggled through illegal routes used by migrants heading to Europe. Now, their main base is in Sirte, which the group considers to be their Raqqa. That is the headquarters in the region. Now, last April, a Sudanese man drove an explosive-laden vehicle into a checkpoint between Sirte and Misrata, killing at least 6 people. Now, pictures of other black Africans killed in action fighting for ISIL in Sirte have also appeared on Libyan social media platforms. Now, surprisingly, ISIL appears to be using the same strategy used by Colonel Gaddafi. He recruited thousands of mercenaries to serve in his armies and attempt to suppress the revolution that would later overthrow him. Now, while Libyan officials admit they are overwhelmed, they fear any Western assistance in fighting the group could worsen their situation. Now, about 6,000, that is 1,000 British troops and 5,000 Italian troops, are to be deployed in a training role, and the US is believed to be contemplating direct military airstrikes on ISIL targets in Libya. Back to you.
Thanks, Jen. Let's get you more on this now. CCTV's Yasser Hakim is live for us in Cairo. Yasser, how are the ISIL talks in Rome being viewed by Cairo, and is Egypt represented?
Yes, the talks are considered very important for Cairo and Egypt as a whole, because Egypt's borders with Libya, and any action in Libya could have its effects and spill over through the Egyptian borders. Egypt is represented by the Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, who is at the talks in Rome right now, and he met with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry last night, and they spoke about Libya, they spoke about Syria as well, and how to also coordinate in their attacks in Syria, on ISIL in Syria and Iraq, in addition to the other regional issues. But Libya was on the top of the talks in the agenda in Rome, and Egypt is looking forward to get out with results that could help in getting ISIL out of the continent and maybe out of the region as well.
Now, yes, so the US wants the Libyan military to be better supported externally to counter the ISIL threat. Is this a viable option?
Egypt sees that working with the Libyan army is important, will make the situation easier to eradicate ISIL, because the Libyans know more about their land than any foreign military power. Egypt has been calling on the international community to support the Libyan army. There's an arms embargo on the Libyan army, which Egypt has rejected before and has been calling to lift this arms embargo. It has been helping the Libyan army through logistical support, intelligence support, training, as well as even an airstrike on ISIL camps in Sirte early last year. And Egypt has always been trying to reach out and help the Libyan cause through working with Libyan authorities. Even this week, the head of the Libyan army, Khalifa Haftar, who is spearheading the crackdown on ISIL by the Libyan authorities, has been in Cairo for 2 days. It was a secret mission that we all were told about. On his way back to Libya, we were informed that he was in Cairo for 2 days. And just a few days before, the head of the newly established coalition government under the UN auspices was also in Cairo for 4 days. So there has been a lot of action with Cairo, all behind the scenes, between the top officials in Libya. So obviously Egypt is coordinating about this and would stand behind or support action in Libya, as long as it is an action that is coordinated with the North African countries which are neighboring the Libyan peninsula.
But yes, so if I may ask, within Egypt's borders, how is the country, Egypt, fighting the threat of ISIL there?
It's quite tough because the borders are very huge, and the Libyan army is not able to protect the borders from his side. The Libyan army is trying very hard to work to fight ISIL, as well as the different militias in Libya. So it's a weak army. It's not as strong, or it's not a well-equipped army as well. So it's all the burden is on the Egyptian side to try to protect the borders, all of the borderlines through its own side on the Egyptian soil. But on the other hand, the Egyptian army also has to work on the other side of the borders with the crackdown on northern Sinai, on militants there. So the Egyptian army is kind of divided between both sides, to the west and to the east. And therefore, it has been trying to plan some kind of coordination. It might not use the army soldiers to enter Libya, but Egypt can provide air supply, can provide training, can provide even through the Navy some units to work with the Libyan army. But it's not an easy situation to try to protect the borders from infiltration, especially that the ISIL and the militants are actually towards the border with Egypt. That's the eastern part of Libya, and that's the closest part to Egypt's borders. And it needs a lot of work from the Egyptian side and coordination with the Libyans as well.
It does indeed, Yasser. Thanks very much for joining us. Yasser Hakim live for us in Cairo.